The storage unit key felt like lead in my palm, its jagged edge cutting into my flesh as I clenched my fist tighter and tighter. Around me, laughter erupted, the kind that makes your cheeks burn and your stomach turn. My name is Zoe, and I'm the family joke, the punchline that keeps on giving. Well, aren't you going to say thank you? My mother's voice dripped with false sweetness, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her wine glass. It's a very practical gift. I forced myself to look up from the key, past my sister Delaney's barely concealed smirk, past my father's amused expression, to meet my mother's eyes. Thank you, I managed, the words tasting like ash. Storage girl needs somewhere to keep all her bargain bin treasures. Delaney giggled, adjusting the designer watch our parents had given her just moments before. The same watch I'd mentioned wanting last month when I'd gotten a promotion at work. Now, Dad chimed in, though his eyes sparkled with mirth. Your sister's just being practical. Unlike some people, Delaney, you needed a proper home for your future. Ah, yes, Delaney's proper home. The 3-bedroom house our parents had bought her last week. The real Christmas gift, making this storage unit key feel even more like the slap in the face it was intended to be. Speaking of which, Delaney straightened up, her engagement ring catching the light. Kent and I are thinking of converting the spare bedroom into a nursery. You know, planning ahead. Mom practically squealed with delight. Oh, darling, how wonderful. Robert, did you hear that? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I should check out my, gift before it gets too dark. Oh, Zoe, Mom sighed, exasperated. Don't be so dramatic. It's Christmas dinner. Let her go, Delaney waved dismissively. Storage girl probably can't wait to start filling it with more thrift store finds. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, their laughter following me like a shadow. The December air hit my face, bitter and biting, but I welcomed it. Anything was better than the suffocating atmosphere inside. The storage facility was only a few blocks away. Of course it was. They'd probably picked it so they could drive past and joke about it regularly. Unit 23B. The key slid into the lock with a click that echoed in the empty corridor. The metal door groaned as I pulled it up, revealing a space about the size of a small bedroom. Empty except for some dust and a single light bulb dangling from the ceiling. The perfect metaphor for what my family thought of me. My phone buzzed. A text from Hassan, my co-worker. How's the family Christmas going? I snapped a picture of the storage unit and sent it to him. His response came quickly. What the actual hell? My Christmas gift, I typed back, while Delaney got a house. That's messed up. Want me to come get you? I considered it for a moment, but something kept me rooted to the spot. The humiliation of the evening was crystallizing into something harder, colder. No, I replied. I need some time alone. Standing there in the harsh fluorescent light, I thought about all the times they'd chosen Delaney. All the times they'd dismissed my achievements, my dreams, my existence. The storage unit key dug into my palm again, but this time I welcomed the pain. My phone buzzed again, Delaney this time. Mom says stop being childish and come back for dessert. Though there might not be any left, LOL. I looked around the empty unit, then at her text, and something inside me shifted. The last thread of hope that they might someday see me, value me, snapped clean. Thanks for checking on me, I typed back. The storage unit is perfect, exactly what I deserve. Let them think they'd won. Let them think they'd broken me. Let them laugh. I closed the storage unit door and locked it, my movements deliberate and calm. In the reflection of the metal door, I barely recognized myself. The usual hurt in my eyes had been replaced by something else, something sharp and clear and dangerous. They wanted Storage Girl. Fine, I'd give them Storage Girl. But they were about to learn that sometimes the things you lock away come back to haunt you. I walked home through the snow, leaving their Christmas dinner behind. In my pocket, the key pressed against my leg like a promise, or maybe a threat. This was the last Christmas I'd spend as their punchline, The last time they'd see me cry. The last time they'd know anything real about my life at all. Game on, dear family, game on. You should have seen her face when I got into Yale, Delaney's voice echoed from the old home video playing on my laptop. Zoe was so jealous she couldn't even speak. I paused the video, freezing on my 18-year-old self's face. The truth was, I'd been silent because I'd just received my own acceptance letter to Columbia that morning. Full scholarship. Not that it mattered. Mom and Dad had already planned Delaney's celebration party before either of us had heard back from any schools. Girl, why are you torturing yourself with these? Sabrina's voice crackled through my phone speaker. It's been 3 weeks since Christmas. You need to move forward, not backward. I'm not torturing myself, I said, clicking through more footage. I'm documenting. There's a difference. Documentation for what? Evidence. I watched as 12-year-old Delaney blew out birthday candles on a professional 3-tier cake, while my own 13th birthday the month before had been celebrated with a grocery store. Cupcake, if you could call it a celebration. Zoe, Sabrina's voice softened. What are you planning? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text. Hassan. Extra shift tonight if you want it. Double pay. I've got to go, I told Sabrina. Extra shift calling. At 9 p.m? That's your 3rd night shift this week. Money doesn't sleep, and neither do I. I hung up before she could protest further. The office was nearly empty when I arrived. Hassan looked up from his desk, concern etched on his face. You know you don't have to take every extra shift I offer, right? Yes, I do. I settled into my cubicle, pulling up the financial reports I needed to process. Every dollar counts. Speaking of dollars, he rolled his chair over, lowering his voice. I've been looking into that investment opportunity I mentioned. The startup's going public next month. Could be huge. I thought about the $3,000 I'd managed to save so far. How much are we talking? Minimum buy-in is $2,000. High risk, but I'm in. The words left my mouth before I could second-guess them. Hassan blinked. Just like that? No research? No pros and cons list? Sometimes you have to risk everything to become someone new. I turned back to my computer, but Hassan didn't move. This is about Christmas, isn't it? I kept typing. Everything's about Christmas. My phone buzzed again. Delaney, Mom says you're not answering her calls. Don't be such a baby about the storage unit. It was just a joke. I switched off my phone without responding. The next morning, exhausted from the night shift, I drove to the storage unit. I hadn't been back since Christmas, but something pulled me there. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was spite. But when I rolled up the door, I noticed something I'd missed before. In the back corner, barely visible in the dim light, sat a stack of boxes labelled Robert's Old Collections. My hands trembled as I opened the first box. Inside, perfectly preserved, were dozens of vintage action figures from the 80s. The second box held rare comic books in protective sleeves. The third... Holy shit! I whispered, pulling out my phone to Google the items. My father's forgotten junk collection, carelessly stored and forgotten, was worth a small fortune. I called Sabrina immediately. Remember when you said I needed to move forward? I think I just found my starting line. What do you mean? I said, carefully repacking the boxes, that I need you to teach me everything you know about online selling, and I mean everything. That evening, I sat in my tiny apartment with my laptop open to an investment account application. On one side of me lay Hassan's startup prospectus, on the other, a detailed inventory of my father's abandoned collectibles. My phone lit up with a text from my mother. Delaney and Kent are hosting a housewarming next weekend. Wear something nice for once. No excuses. I looked at the storage unit key sitting on my desk, then at the investment application, and finally at the inventory list I'd made. A plan was forming, slow, careful, and absolutely perfect. Sorry, Mom, I typed back. I'll be working. Storage units don't pay for themselves. Let them think I was bitter. Let them think I was stuck. Let them think whatever they wanted. Because while they were laughing at Storage Girl, she was about to become something else entirely, something they'd never see coming. I clicked submit on the investment application and picked up my phone again. Hassan, about that startup, I want to double my investment. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served in silence, building like a wave that no one sees until it crashes over their heads. And my wave, it was just beginning to rise. Another coffee. Hassan placed a steaming cup on my desk, eyeing the dark circles under my eyes. That's your 4th today. Thanks. I minimized the browser window showing my latest online auction listings. 3 months of working days at the office and nights on my side business was taking its toll, but the numbers in my investment account made it worth it. You know, Hassan leaned against my cubicle wall, normal people sleep at night. Normal people don't get storage units for Christmas. I took a sip of coffee, then pulled up a spreadsheet to look busy as our supervisor walked past. My phone buzzed with Delaney's daily dose of torture. Just finished our kitchen remodel. Marble countertops are everything. How's the storage unit? Still musty. I attached a photo of the empty unit. All clean now. Thanks for asking. What she didn't know was that every single item from Dad's collection had been carefully photographed, researched and listed for sale. The first action figure had sold for enough to cover 3 months of storage fees. Zoe, Hassan's voice dropped to a whisper, check your investment account. I opened the app and nearly choked on my coffee. The startup's stock had jumped 40% overnight. Tell me you didn't sell yet, Hassan said. Not a single share. My hands were shaking as I calculated the numbers. This is life-changing, he grinned, and it's just the beginning. My phone rang. Mom. I sent it to voicemail. You can't avoid them forever, Hassan said. Watch me. I turned back to my work, but he didn't move. What are you really doing with all this money, Zoe? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed again. A notification from my auction site. The rare comic book had just sold for 5 figures. I'm building something, I said finally. Something they'll never see coming. That evening, I met Sabrina at our usual coffee shop. She slid into the booth with a concerned look. You look like hell. Thanks. I pushed a folder across the table. I need your real estate expertise. She opened it and her eyes widened. Zoe, this is... How did you... Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. I tapped the property listing. Is it possible? With these numbers, yes, but... She looked up at me. This is the house across from Delaney's. I know. That's not healthy. Neither is what they did to me. I pulled out my phone and showed her my investment portfolio. Her jaw dropped. Holy shit, Zoe. Does your family know about any of this? They know exactly what I want them to know, that their storage girl is exactly where they left her. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. Family dinner tomorrow. Non-negotiable. Your father wants to discuss something important. Perfect timing, I muttered. You're not going, are you? Sabrina asked. Oh, I'm going, I smiled. Can't miss the show. The next evening I walked into my parents' house wearing the same shabby clothes they'd grown accustomed to seeing me in. Delaney and Kent were already there, champagne flutes in hand. Oh my God, Delaney wrinkled her nose. You smell like that storage unit. Really? I made a show of sniffing my sleeve. Must be because I spend so much time there, organising my life and all that. Dad cleared his throat. Speaking of organising lives, he looked uncomfortable. We need to discuss something as a family. Robert, Mom warned, but he held up his hand. The business, there have been some setbacks. He wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Nothing serious, but we might need to make some temporary adjustments. Delaney's face fell. What kind of adjustments? Your allowance might need to be reduced temporarily. What? Delaney's voice rose. But the landscaping for the new house isn't finished, and Kent and I were planning a trip to Europe. I sat quietly watching the drama unfold. My phone buzzed silently. Another auction notification, another 5-figure sale. "It's just temporary," Dad assured her. "A few months at most." "Zoe," Mum turned to me suddenly, "you work in finance. Surely you have some suggestions." I took a slow sip of water, savouring the moment. "Sorry, Mom, I'm just the storage girl, remember? What could I possibly know about real money?" The silence that followed was deafening. In that moment, watching their faces, I realised something. They had no idea that their perfect world was about to shatter, and I, the daughter they'd dismissed and degraded, would be there to watch every piece fall. My phone buzzed again, the real estate agent this time. The offer on the house had been accepted. Game on, indeed. "You bought a what?" Hassan nearly dropped his coffee cup when I told him the news. "A house." I kept my voice low, though the office was nearly empty. "The closing is next week." "Across from your sister's?" "Pure coincidence." I smiled, clicking through photos of my new property. The market value was too good to pass up. "Nothing about this is coincidence." He leaned closer. "The startup investment tripled again, by the way. You're officially in serious money territory." My phone buzzed, a group text from Mom. "Family pool party at Delaney's this Saturday. Mandatory attendance. Kent's parents will be there." "Speaking of serious money," I showed Hassan the text. "Want to watch a show?" Saturday arrived with perfect weather and impeccable timing. I pulled up to Delaney's house in my beat-up Honda, carefully parking between Kent's Mercedes and Dad's BMW. "You're late," Mom hissed as I walked through the gate. "And what are you wearing?" I looked down at my faded Target swimsuit. The best I could afford. "Oh my God," Delaney emerged from the house in a designer bikini. "You couldn't even try to look presentable? Kent's parents are here." "Sorry," I shrugged. "Storage unit budget, remember?" Kent's mother wrinkled her nose as she passed me. "Darling, is that musty smell coming from the pool house?" "No, Margaret," Delaney laughed nervously. "That's just my sister. She lives in a storage unit." "Works in a storage unit," Mum corrected quickly. "It's a temporary situation." I helped myself to a drink and settled into a corner chair, watching the performance unfold. Kent's parents were exactly the type my family desperately wanted to impress. Old money, country club memberships, the works. "Robert," Kent's father called out, "tell me about this expansion project you mentioned. Sounds ambitious." Dad's smile flickered. Yes. Well, actually..." A phone rang. Dad practically jumped to answer it, walking quickly toward the house. I followed quietly, keeping just within earshot. "What do you mean, denied?" Dad's voice shook. "The bank promised..." "No, you don't understand. I need that extension. Please, just..." He ended the call and leaned against the wall, not noticing me in the shadows. "Bad news?" I asked softly. He spun around. "Zoe, It's nothing, just business. Funny thing about business," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Sometimes the smallest cracks can bring down the biggest facades." His eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," I smiled. "Just something I learned in finance, at my real job. The one everyone forgets about while they're laughing about my storage unit." "Zoe, He was cut off by Mom's voice calling us back outside. The afternoon deteriorated quickly. Kent's parents asked increasingly pointed questions about Dad's business. Delaney kept trying to steer the conversation toward her house renovations, but even she couldn't ignore the tension crackling in the air. "At least the housing market is strong," Kent's father said. "Your investment in this property was smart, Robert." "Actually," I spoke up, "local property values are dropping, especially in this neighbourhood." "What?" Delaney's head snapped toward me. "That's not true." "Check the listings." I sipped my drink. The house across the street just sold for 20% below asking price. "How would you know that?" Mom demanded. "I work in finance, remember? When you're not too busy making storage unit jokes, I actually know quite a bit about money." The silence that followed was delicious. "Robert," Kent's mother stood up. Perhaps we should continue this discussion about Kent and Delaney's future another time. As they left, I caught fragments of their whispered conversation. Financial troubles, not the kind of family. Reconsider the engagement. Delaney was in tears. Mum was furious. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in an afternoon. Why would you say those things? Mom rounded on me. Are you trying to ruin your sister's life? Me? I stood up slowly. I just stated facts. It's not my fault if the truth hurts. Get out, Delaney sobbed. Just get out. Gladly. I grabbed my bag. Have fun with those renovation plans. Hope the bank's still taking your calls. As I drove away, my phone lit up with a notification. The final piece of Dad's collection, a mint-condition comic book, had just sold for enough to furnish my entire new house. I took a detour past my future home. The sold sign gleamed in the sunset. In just a few days, I'd have the perfect view of my family's carefully constructed world, crumbling piece by piece. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was done being subtle about it. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. I was at my desk when Hassan rushed over, tablet in hand. Local business owner faces fraud allegations, the headline screamed. Below it, my father's company name and a very unflattering photo of him leaving his office. Did you know? Hassan asked quietly. About the fraud? No. I scrolled through the article. About the collapse? Let's just say I'm not surprised. My phone exploded with notifications. First Sabrina. Holy shit, have you seen the news? Then Delaney. Answer your phone right now. Mum. Family emergency. Come home immediately. I turned my phone off and continued working. Let them panic. Let them feel what it's like to have their world pulled out from under them. Around noon, Hassan touched my shoulder. Your sister's here. Delaney stood in the office lobby, mascara streaking down her face. Her designer handbag was crooked, her hair a mess, a far cry from her usual perfection. Where have you been? She shrieked as I approached. Why aren't you answering your phone? Working. Some of us have to earn a living. Dad's business is ruined, she grabbed my arm. The bank is freezing everything. They're saying he committed fraud. I gently removed her hand. Falsified loan documents, misappropriated funds. How can you be so calm? Her voice cracked. They're taking my house, Zoe. The bank says the mortgage was based on fraudulent income statements. Karma's funny that way. Karma? She stepped back. What's wrong with you? This is our family. No, I said quietly. This was your family. I was just the storage girl, remember? Her face crumpled. Please, I need help. Kent's parents called off the engagement. Everything's falling apart. Have you checked the storage unit? Might be some valuable stuff in there. She slapped me. The sound echoed through the lobby. Hassan stepped forward, but I held up my hand. Feel better? I asked, touching my cheek. You're enjoying this, she whispered. You're actually enjoying watching us suffer. The way you enjoyed watching me suffer? Yes, I suppose I am. She left in tears. I returned to my desk, ignoring the stares from my co-workers. My phone had 17 missed calls when I turned it back on. The 18th came from an unknown number. Ms. Woods, this is Detective Morris. We'd like to speak with you about your father's business dealings. Of course, I said smoothly. I'd be happy to help, though I'm afraid I don't know much. I was never really involved in the family business. That evening I drove past my parents' house. Police cars lined the street. Through the windows I could see officers boxing up documents. Mum stood in the doorway, clutching her pearls, watching her perfect world disintegrate. My phone buzzed. Sabrina, just saw the news. You okay? Better than okay, I replied. Just watching the show. This isn't healthy, Zoe. Neither was what they did to me. Another text came through from Kent. Your family is toxic. Tell Delaney to stop calling me. I smiled and drove to my storage unit. Inside, I'd kept one item from Dad's collection, a family photo album. I flipped through it now, looking at all the perfectly staged photos. Delaney always centre frame, Me, always pushed to the edges. My phone rang again, Dad this time. I answered on the last ring. "Zoe," his voice was broken, we need money, I supplied. "A place to stay, someone to bail you out. Please, your mother, we might lose the house." "Might? From what I hear, it's already gone, along with the cars, the vacation home, and Delaney's house." "You don't understand." "No, Dad. For once, I understand perfectly. And so do the police, apparently." Silence. Then, "We're your family." "No," I said softly. "You're the people who gave me a storage unit for Christmas and laughed about it. You're the people who treated me like garbage while spoiling Delaney rotten. You're the people who made me feel worthless my entire life. Where are we supposed to go?" I looked around the storage unit at the empty spaces where Dad's valuable collection used to be. "I hear storage units are very practical gifts. Maybe start there?" I hung up and closed the photo album. Through the unit's small window I could see the sun setting. Tomorrow I'd get the keys to my new house, the one across from Delaney's former home. Sometimes revenge isn't about what you do. Sometimes it's about simply stepping back and watching karma do its work. And karma, it seemed, was just getting started. The knock on my apartment door came at 11 p.m. I knew who it was before I opened it. Only my family could be this inconsiderate of normal hours. They stood there like a tableau of fallen royalty. Mom in her rumpled designer clothes, Dad looking 10 years older than last week, and Delaney with red-rimmed eyes and unwashed hair. "We have nowhere else to go," Mom said, her voice lacking its usual command. I leaned against the doorframe. "The storage unit's available." "This isn't a joke, Zoe," Delaney pushed forward. "They've frozen all our accounts. Kent won't return my calls. We can't even get into our houses. Houses tend to work that way when they're seized by federal authorities." Dad stepped between us. "Please, can we come in for tonight?" I studied them for a long moment, then stepped aside. They filed in, taking in my small apartment with poorly disguised disdain. "This is cozy," Mom managed, perching awkwardly on my second-hand couch. "It's what I could afford on my salary." I remained standing. "You know, when I wasn't being gifted storage units." "Are you ever going to let that go?" Delaney snapped. "Are you ever going to acknowledge how you treated me?" Silence fell. Dad cleared his throat. "We made mistakes, clearly, but we're still family." "Family?" I laughed. "Let's talk about family. Let's talk about how you paid for Delaney's college but told me to take loans. How you bought her a car while I took the bus. How you gave her a house while I got a storage unit," they finished in unison. "We get it," Delaney said. "You're bitter, but we need help." "Why me? Why not your country club friends, your business partners, Kent's family?" Mum's face crumpled. "They won't take our calls. No one will." "Karma's funny that way." "Stop saying that," Delaney stood up. "Stop acting so superior. At least we had something to lose. What did you ever accomplish? Living in this dump, working your pathetic office job?" I walked to my kitchen counter and picked up an envelope. "Want to know what I accomplished?" "What's that?" Dad asked. "My new address." I pulled out the papers. "I closed on it today." They stared at the documents, uncomprehending at first. Then Mom gasped. That's the house across from Delaney's, the one that just sold." "Was across from Delaney's," I corrected, "since her house belongs to the bank now." "You bought a house?" Delaney's voice rose. "How?" "Remember Dad's old collection in the storage unit? Turns out it was worth quite a bit. And unlike some people, I know how to manage money." Dad's face went pale. "My collection? You sold it?" "Every piece. Well, almost every piece. I kept the family photo album. You know, the one where I'm always pushed to the edge of the frame." "You had no right," he started forward, but I held up my hand. "I had every right. It was my Christmas gift, remember? The storage unit and everything in it. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Mom spoke. So, you have a house. A very nice one. 4 bedrooms, pool, excellent view of the neighbourhood's recent foreclosures. Then you can help us, Delaney said. We can stay with you until... No. No? Mom's voice cracked. We're your family. You're the people who made me feel worthless for 31 years. You're the people who laughed at my pain and celebrated my humiliation. You're the people who thought giving me a storage unit for Christmas was hilarious. Where are we supposed to go? Delaney whispered. I walked to my door and opened it. I hear storage units are very practical. Plenty of space to figure out your lives. Zoe, please, Dad tried one last time. We're sorry. No, you're sorry you got caught. You're sorry you lost everything. You're sorry you have to turn to Storage Girl for help. I pulled out the storage unit key. Here's your Christmas gift back. Consider it your new starter home. They stood slowly, the weight of their situation visible in their shoulders. You've become cruel, Mom said quietly. I learned from the best. After they left, I sat in my quiet apartment. Their desperate faces burned into my memory. My phone buzzed. Hassan, you okay? You seemed off at work today. I looked at the house keys on my counter. Tomorrow I'd start moving into my new home. Tomorrow I'd watch from my front window as my family figured out their new reality. I'm fine, I replied, just watching karma finish what it started. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about winning, it's about making sure they know exactly why they lost. And my family, they were just beginning to understand. I can't believe you're making us wait in the driveway, Delaney shivered in the morning cold. 3 days of living in the storage unit had stripped away her polished exterior. Mum and Dad looked equally dishevelled, huddled together on my new front steps. Just wanted to make sure you got the full effect, I said, keys dangling from my finger. Ready for the grand tour? I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The foyer gleamed with marble floors and crystal lighting. Everything Delaney had wanted for her house, but better. Their gasps echoed off the high ceilings. This is... Mom touched a hand-painted wall. How did you... Money management, something you might want to learn about in the storage unit. I led them through each room, watching their expressions shift from shock to envy to something darker. The kitchen with its professional appliances, the living room with its panoramic windows, the media room with its state-of-the-art everything. That's my couch. Delaney stopped suddenly in the formal living room. And my coffee table. Those were in my house. Were is the key word. I settled into the plush armchair, also formerly hers. Bank auction. Everything had to go. You bought my furniture? Her voice cracked. My things? Got them at a great price too. Foreclosure sales are excellent for bargain hunting. Mum sank onto the couch, Delaney's couch, her hands trembling. All this time while we were... Laughing at Storage Girl? Yes, all this time. Dad stood by the window staring at the empty house across the street. Delaney's former home. The start-up investment, the collection sales. You planned all of this. Not at first. I walked to the window beside him. But after Christmas something clicked. You gave me that storage unit to humiliate me, but instead it gave me everything I needed to destroy you. Destroy us, Delaney's voice rose. We're sleeping in a storage unit while you live in a mansion filled with my furniture. Is that not enough destruction for you? I turned to face them. Remember last Christmas, when you all laughed at me, when you thought giving me a storage unit was the funniest thing ever? Zoe, please, Mom started. No, let me finish. For 31 years, you treated me like I was nothing, less than nothing, the family joke, the disappointment, the one who didn't deserve a real home. I pulled the storage unit key from my pocket and held it out to Delaney. Here, early Christmas present. Now you can be Storage Girl. She stared at the key, tears streaming down her face. I hate you. Funny, that's exactly how I felt every time you got everything while I got nothing. "We were wrong," Dad said quietly. "We see that now." "No, you see that you lost everything. There's a difference." Mum stood up suddenly. "You have this beautiful house. Surely you have room." "Stop." I held up my hand. "I'm not offering you a place to stay. I'm not offering you anything except the same thing you offered me. A storage unit and the chance to know what it feels like to be the family joke." Delaney collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Dad moved to comfort her, but I stepped between them. "I think it's time for you to go. I have a housewarming party to plan." "A party?" Mum's voice was hollow. "Yes, I invited Kent's parents. They seemed very interested in hearing the full story of what happened to their son's almost in-laws." They moved toward the door like sleepwalkers, broken and bewildered. At the threshold, Dad turned back. "Was any of it worth it?" he asked. "This revenge?" I looked around my beautiful new home, then back at their destroyed faces. "Ask me again next Christmas." After they left, I watched from the window as they walked down the street, probably heading back to their storage unit. My phone buzzed. "Hassan." "Did you do it? Did you show them?" "Just finished the grand tour." "And?" I touched the cool glass of the window, watching my family disappear around the corner. "It felt empty," he suggested. "Perfect," I corrected. "It felt perfect." But as I stood in my enormous foyer, surrounded by everything I'd wanted, everything they'd lost, I felt something shift inside me. Not regret exactly, not guilt, but something else, something that tasted less like victory and more like... My phone buzzed again, a text from Delaney. "I understand now. I'm sorry. Not because we lost everything, but because we never saw you. Really saw you." I didn't respond. Some wounds run too deep for sorry. Instead, I walked to my new kitchen and poured myself a glass of champagne. Through the window, I could see the storage facility in the distance, a tiny box of metal units where my family now lived. Karma really does come full circle. The storage unit door creaked open one last time. Empty now except for dust and memories. I stood in the doorway, key in hand, remembering that Christmas night that had changed everything. "You sure about this?" Hassan asked from behind me. "It's time." I stepped inside, my heels clicking on the concrete floor. "I don't need it anymore." My phone buzzed. Delaney. "Saw the moving trucks at the storage facility. Are you really making us leave?" I typed back. "The unit's paid through the end of the week. What you do after that is your problem." "We've learned our lesson, Zoe, please." I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding. Hassan watched me carefully. "You know," he said, "revenge doesn't have to be forever. Neither does family." I ran my hand along the wall where Dad's collection had once sat. "Sometimes both need to end." A shadow appeared in the doorway. Sabrina. "Thought I'd find you here." "Come to lecture me about karma again?" "No." She stepped inside. "Come to help you close this chapter." I pulled out the last item from my bag, the family photo album, the one thing I'd kept from Dad's collection. Opening it one last time, I looked at the photos. Christmas mornings where Delaney got everything while I got practical gifts. Birthday parties where she was the centre of attention while I took the photos. "They're at the diner down the street," Sabrina said quietly. "Your mum called me. They want to talk." "There's nothing left to say." "Isn't there?" Hassan took the album from my hands. "You won, Zoe. You proved your point. Maybe now it's time to prove something else." "Like what?" "That you're better than they were." I looked at the empty unit, then at my friends. "The diner, huh?" 10 minutes later, I pushed open the diner's door. They sat in a corner booth, my once proud family reduced to wrinkled clothes and tired eyes. Mum saw me first, nudging Dad and Delaney. "You came," Mum whispered as I approached. "I'm not staying." I remained standing. "And I'm not changing my mind about the storage unit." "We know," Dad said. "We just wanted to give you something." He pushed a small box across the table. Inside was a key, not to the storage unit, but something else. "What's this?" "The key to your college dorm," Delaney said softly. "The one you never got to use because they made you live at home to save money. I found it in Mom's jewelry box at the storage unit." "Why are you giving me this?" "Because," Mom's voice cracked, "it represents the moment we failed you, the first of many moments. We can't change the past, but we wanted you to know. We see it now. All of it." I picked up the key, feeling its weight. "This doesn't change anything." "No," Dad agreed, "but maybe it can help end it. Really end it, not just with revenge, but with understanding." "Understanding what?" "That we were wrong." Delaney looked up, her eyes clear for the first time in weeks. "Not just about the money or the gifts or the storage unit. About you, about who you are and what you're capable of." I sat down slowly, placing both keys on the table, the dorm key and the storage unit key. "You know what the worst part was?" I said quietly. "It wasn't the gifts or the money or even the storage unit. It was that you never saw me, never really looked. We're looking now." Mom reached across the table, stopping short of touching my hand. "And we see someone incredible. Someone who beat us at our own game," Dad added. "Someone I wish I'd known was my sister all along," Delaney finished. I looked at the keys again, then pushed the storage unit key toward them. "Keep it. Consider it your last gift from me." "And the dorm key?" Mom asked. I picked it up and dropped it in my purse. "That one I'm keeping, to remind me and you of where this all started." Standing up, I looked at my broken family one last time. "Goodbye." "Will we ever see you again?" Delaney's voice was small. "Maybe, when the storage unit isn't the first thing I think of when I see you." I walked out of the diner into the bright morning light. Hassan and Sabrina waited by my car. "Well?" Hassan asked. I took out the dorm key and held it up to the sun. "Sometimes ending something means keeping a piece of it, just to remember why it had to end." "And the storage unit?" "Let them keep it. I don't need it anymore." I got into my car. "I have everything I need right here." As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of the storage facility in my rearview mirror. Some gifts, it turns out, are better returned, and some victories are sweeter when you finally let them go. The end.